It feels like it was just yesterday. We were in the middle of July. All we had to watch was baseball and a little bit of golf. And here we are, Peter Dewey, me and you, 3 hours away from week 2 of the NFL set to begin. And tonight's game might be one of the best Thursday night football games of the season between the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. So we have a jam-packed show for you because we are going to give out our best bets for that game. That is obviously our game of the night. We'll talk at the end of the show. Peter, you got your best bets for tonight outside of Thursday night football as well. And then I'm going to give out my 3 best bets for NFL Week 2 for the games that will take place on Sunday. We're also going to give you guys our Survivor picks for this week and some tips that you should keep in mind before you lock in those Survivor bets, even though I have to say it, Peter, unfortunately, you are already eliminated from the BetSided Survivor pool. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, Frank Reich and honestly, no, not Frank. Rodrigo Blankenship is dead to me for missing that kick in overtime. Took the Colts. Losing Survivor on a tie is so much worse. Like when they went down 20-3 in that game, I was kind of like, you know what? I was just wrong. Like they're going to lose. It sucks. Right. For them to come all the way back and have a chance to win it in overtime and finish with a tie. It was brutal, dude. I think that would have been way worse than any possible bad beat I could have had in week 1. That was just horrible. I was like, this is how I'm going to lose Survivor against a horrible Texans team. Come on, man.
Yeah, and I don't know if you knew the rules, but even I had to look it up. Everyone was scrambling to see what a tie meant in Survivor pools. Unfortunately, for the large majority of them, it is a loss. So you are eliminated from the BetSided one, but we'll still talk Survivor picks as if you weren't eliminated. The big Survivor pool I'm in, up to, I think, 60% of entries eliminated right there in week 1. So I know some pools allow you to re-enter, re-buy in after week 1. So even if you were eliminated, if you're bought back in, we got some Survivor picks and tips for you. But first of all, if you're watching this on Twitter, head over to YouTube, give it a like, subscribe to us, smash the subscribe button. Live comment on the show. If you have picks that we don't get to because we do have some community picks here, then we can talk about them on the show. Let's get to the community picks. I think we have 5. A lot of entries in community picks for tonight, so let's get through them. Bring up the first one, please. Jordan Pearson, Mr. J. Pearson, over on Juju's yards, he says, seeing 55.5 up to 58.5. He'll go over all of those totals tonight. I don't think books have the right read on him quite yet. Last week, his prop was at 46.5, and he went for 79 yards. He's the second option in a pass-happy offense. His props should be in the mid-60s. Peter, I know you will like that one, considering your sign in the background. I guess that, to be fair, your sign is not a statement, though. It is a question.
Yes.
The return of Juju?
It's a question. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in one of my best bets, but I don't mind this prop at all. I was looking through the Chiefs' targets for this past week. Travis Kelce had 9. Juju Smith-Schuster had 8. Cole Hardman had 6. No other player on the team had more than 4. So
how many did Sky Moore have?
I believe he only had 2. I might be wrong on that.
I invested a lot of stock in Sky Moore this offseason. Not very promising week 1 results.
I think the thing for Juju is really just the volume here. We're seeing it's kind of the Chiefs' offense looked a little different. They didn't look like they had to force the ball down the field to Tyreek Hill. It was just kind of let's just take chunk gains, and that's where Juju thrives. So I don't mind it. If he sees the same volume he saw in week 1 and with the way the total is in this game, I wouldn't be surprised that he does. I don't mind that play at all. Yeah,
I like the play quite a bit. Seems to be a somewhat popular play, along with Travis Kelce. Yardage is also a popular play for tonight. So, everyone's on the over for tonight. Everyone's on over prop bets. Tonight's just going to end up being like a 10-7 slugfest probably. All right, so that's the first community pick. Let's move on to the second one because, like I said, I think we've got 5 to get through here today. Hot takes with TP3. We got a baseball pick here because, yes, there is still baseball going on tonight. And this game has not started yet. It is the Philadelphia Phillies against the Miami Marlins. He has taken Phillies minus 121. He says Pablo Lopez might have a respectable ERA, but the second half of the season, it's 6.52. Yes, that is correct. Pablo Lopez has been terrible since the All-Star break. He says also Marlins 4-16 last 20 games. Over that stretch, they are scoring 2.8 runs per game. Take out the 10-run game against Texas, and it's 2.42 runs per game. Phillies all day. Any thoughts on that one?
Marlins offense stinks. I think they're dead last in runs scored since the All-Star break. So
yeah.
Like Pablo Lopez obviously hasn't been good by those numbers, but I mean, this is more just like, can the Marlins even score 3 runs? Like that's basically what half their games have come down to.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I like that pick. Phillies minus 121. Let's bring up community pick number 3 from D-Generation at Doug's Picks 8114. Over 54 and Chargers +4. I see a very tight game with lots of action. Oh, excuse me. A little saliva just went down the wrong drain there. Could even go into overtime. 38-31 Chargers. I will note about that overtime note. 2 of the last 4 games between the Chargers and Chiefs have gone to overtime. So who knows? Maybe we'll see it again tonight. So he's on the over and Chargers plus the points. That is our game of the night. So we'll comment on that game more as we get to it at the end of the show. Yeah, let's bring up the next pick. I don't know if he parlayed those picks or if he's doing them separately. Another pick for Thursday Night Football, Drew Jeffers at Drew Jeffers 5. Chargers money line with a splash of first touchdown scores on Williams and Everett. He's not even taking the points. He's getting aggressive, taking the Chargers to win outright as money line underdogs with a couple touchdown props. Touchdown props extremely, extremely popular, especially in primetime games. I actually saw a tweet. I forget which sports book. I'm going to see if I can find the tweet again really quick. But there were more bets on Travis Kelce to score a touchdown tonight than on the point spread with both teams combined.
Wow.
That's at PointsBet. PointsBet, and the tweet came from at David Purdom.
I wonder what Kelce is at PointsBet to score a touchdown tonight, because I was seeing him like minus 145 at a lot of places.
Minus 135 at PointsBet. So you're right. Maybe a lot of people are going there because it's the best odds. And so he tweets, there are more bets on Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce minus 135 to score a touchdown tonight against the Chargers than there are on the game's point spread, both teams combined. That is mind-blowing.
That's crazy.
That seems wild. But once again, that certainly could just be a product of touchdown scoring bets are becoming more popular. So Drew Jeffers is on Williams and Everett to score the first touchdown, which obviously a little bit more of a gamble if you're just taking first touchdown odds. But nothing is more electric than cashing in a first touchdown bet. I've done it a couple times. It's electric. Yeah, I like to just put like $5 on it usually.
Yeah, I feel like you can't put too much into it because you're gonna get yourself frustrated if it doesn't hit. But the chart, I almost would want to throw a Chiefs guy in there just because, like, if they don't win the toss, like the way that this game might go, like it's just going to be constant points. Like you're kind of banking on some luck too that the Chargers end up taking the ball first as well.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly a big issue with taking first touchdown odds. Is if the team that the play, like you don't even know who's going to get the ball first. If the other team gets the ball first, they go down and score a touchdown. Like your guy didn't even have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bet on someone to score first tonight. I'm going to bet on Sky Moore. Why not just invest even more into the rookie?
He had one target. Did have a 30-yard touchdown, but he had one target last week. So.
I bet you I can get pretty good odds on it. Touchdown scoring props. First touchdown score, Sky Moore. 35-1. Lock it in. All right, let's bring up the next community pick. Who knows? Dustin Saratini. Jays Rays under 7. That game is already going on here. Jays were losing last time I looked, unfortunately, as they try to claw back into the AL East race. Yeah, 5-0 top of the 7th. So, Dustin, your Jays Rays bet is still looking good. But he's also on Eckler over 36.5 receiving yards. I'm on Eckler's over rushing yards for tonight. Receiving yards might even be a little bit of a better look, though. So there you have it. Any thoughts on Austin Eckler tonight, Peter?
I like Eckler. He had 18 opportunities last week between targets and rushes. I know he didn't put up like a huge game, didn't score a touchdown, but I think the volume is going to be there for him. Like they have other backs that they were rotating in. I know Josh Kelly was getting some looks, but this is his backfield. Like they're going to need him all season long. So I think anytime you're going to get his number, like I think he finished with 36 receiving yards last week. So that's kind of explains the number this week. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad play because he's one of those running backs who could see like 6 to 8 targets. And then you get that many targets, he's almost a lock to hit it over. So I don't mind that at all. I almost wouldn't mind Ian because I know you said you're on the rushing, like the rushing and receiving yards prop. That to me is almost like I feel like you get the best bang for your buck because you don't really know what type of game it could end up being.
Yep, that could be a good look as well for sure. I took the rushing total because Chiefs 30th in opponent yards per carry last season, allowing 4.7 yards per rush, and in week 1 they allowed that same number, 4.7 yards per rush. So I'm kind of banking on the Chiefs' run defense being bad again this year. I've lost count of how many community picks we have. I think this is the last one coming up, or was that it? That might have been it. That was it. So there we go. So let's get into our best bets for tonight. Peter, like I said, I'm just going to focus on Sunday's NFL games for my best bet since this is my last Daily Betslip appearance until next week. Peter, you got some MLB plays, and then you do have a touchdown scoring prop for tonight as well. So why don't we start with your first MLB play for tonight?
Yeah, so I got one MLB play tonight. I'm looking at the Padres D-backs game in the late slate. Not the most exciting matchup, but I think we have a pitching matchup that we can really take advantage of. I'm taking the over 9 runs. It was at minus 105 when I bet it. But I think the spot here for the Padres, they're like Sean Manaea is getting overvalued. The Padres are favorites here. He's been horrendous over the last couple of months. You look at his ERA. He has a 8.90 ERA since the start of August, which is just absolutely brutal. He has 3 starts where he's allowed 6 or more runs over that stretch. So he could alone put you in a position to have this over hit. And he's facing Dre Jameson, who's making his MLB debut for the D-backs. He was very good in Double-A this season, had a 2.41 ERA, got bumped up to Triple-A, pitched in 22 games, had a 6.95 ERA. So he was getting rocked in AAA. I know he's the number 9 prospect for Arizona, but now you're going to put him in a lineup against a lineup of Juan Soto, Manny Machado. Like, I just don't see him having this lights out performance. I don't love betting on guys in their major league debut just because it's kind of an unknown, but the sample size for him at AAA is huge. So I like the over here. I think one of these guys could completely blow up. I think Manaea gave up 8 runs in his last start. So like one of these guys could completely blow up and you're going to be sitting pretty. So yeah, give me the over in this late game.
Yeah, that game should be starting right around halftime of the NFL game with opening pitch set for 9:40 p.m. Eastern. Let's get into my first best bet for this weekend's NFL games. I'm going to start with an over bet. I'm going to go with the Giants-Panthers. Over 42.5 in this one. You kind of look at the Giants game last week and you thought it was kind of low scoring and a defensive kind of battle. But it actually wasn't statistically. In fact, this might surprise you. Giants ranked 3rd in yards per play in week 1, behind only the Chiefs and the Bills. They averaged 6.8 yards per play, 7.4 yards per rush. Peter, yes, no answer. Is Saquon Barkley back?
He sure looked like he was back. I'm going to be targeting some Saquon props this week. I'll tell you that.
He sure did look like he was back. And if he is fully back, that's going to help this over bet as well. And also, yeah, the Panthers only averaged 5.2 yards per play against the Browns in week 1. But let's not forget how elite the Browns defense truly is. So now a much easier defense than the Giants. I'm surprised this total is this low. I'd settle it more like 44.5. So I think we're getting 2 points of value here. I'll go over Giants-Panthers, my first best bet of the weekend.
I love that one. The Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb had 33 carries for 187 yards in week 1 against this Panthers defense. So Saquon is probably going to eat again.
Yep, love it. Just Daniel Jones, please no more end zone interceptions. Yes. That's a really quick way to kill an over bet. All right, Peter, go ahead with your second MLB play for tonight.
I got this one. I got two NFL ones. So we're looking.
Oh, you got 2 NFL ones.
I got 2 NFL ones. So I have my pick on the game. It's not my best bet of the game, but I'm taking the Chargers with the points +4 against the Chiefs tonight. Got a couple reasons why. We'll start with the trend that I like in this one is Justin Herbert as a 3-point underdog in his career or more is 5-1 against the spread. I just think, Ian, personally, the Chargers are being a little undervalued here. I know that they're banged up. I know Keenan Allen is out. I know J.C. Jackson is questionable to play, but I just think this line shouldn't move that much because Keenan Allen is out. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched on the offensive side of the ball. The Chargers looked fine without Keenan Allen for the majority of that game against the Raiders. DeAndre Carter really stepped up. And the thing I took away from that game is Mike Williams and Josh Palmer both did essentially nothing. Palmer had 3 catches for 5 yards. Mike Williams only had 2 catches. And the Chargers still were able to win. They still were able to move the ball. Austin Eckler didn't have a great game either. I think he averaged less than 4 yards a carry. So it was kind of like a down offensive game from the Chargers. Now they're going up against Chiefs defense, like you said, was one of the worst teams against the run last year. It was just one of the worst defenses for the first half of the season last year in all of football. So I think we're getting a little value on the Chargers here. Anything outside of a field goal, I feel like is worth a shot because this could come down to a last-second field goal. And the way these two teams played, you talked about at the top of the show, 2 of the last 4 matchups gone to overtime. Very well could end in a field goal there. So I like the Chargers getting 4 here. I think it's just too many points.
So not your best bet that you'll be giving that out later in the show, but you are on Chargers +4. I will say this line opened up Chiefs -2.5. So the way that the line has moved, the value is inherently on the Chargers now. I will say you mentioned a name that I like tonight. I'm starting him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I might even bet an over on one of his props. Josh Palmer for the Chargers. Fun fact about Josh Palmer, Canadian.
Oh.
He's shout out Brampton, Ontario. Josh Palmer is that is where he is from. So obviously I'm biased towards Josh Palmer. Might bet on him a little bit tonight. All right, my second MLB play for Sunday. And most people probably know this one. Jets +6.5. I am going to sprinkle the money line. My official play is +6.5, though I do think Jets can actually win this game outright. I wasn't actually impressed by the Browns too much in the win over the Panthers. Yes, they ran the ball a ton, but Jacoby Brissett stunk. He was the worst quarterback in week 1 in terms of passing yards, dead last in yards per pass attempt, only 3.9 yards, worse than any other team in the NFL in week 1. And the Jets, I know they lost pretty bad to the Ravens, but surprisingly, they were able to stop the Ravens' rushing attack. And they're supposed to be one of the best running attacks in the NFL. They kept the Ravens to 3.0 yards per carry on 21 attempts. So if the Jets can slow down and contain the Browns' rushing attack a little bit and force them to try to win the game through the air on Jacoby Brissett's arm, the Jets might be in this game late. So I love 6.5 points. I'm going to sprinkle money line as well, but my official play is I'll just take the points because I think at the very least they should be able to keep this one close. Jets +6.5.
I like the under personally in this game. I just think that you mentioned the Jets were able to slow the run. I also think the Browns have a fantastic defense, so it's going to be real tough for Joe Flacco to move the ball, but I don't mind taking the points. It feels like a lot of points to lay with Jacoby Brissett if you were going to take the Browns. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's a lot.
And I will say, whenever I bet on the Jets, there's no team I feel more stupid on like Sunday at 5 o'clock than when I have it. Like losing, you bet on the Jets, you're like, oh, maybe they can keep it close, and they lose by 20 points, and you're like, oh, that's stupid. I overthought that one. I had that exact same thought against the Ravens when I was on the Jets week 1. So I'm going to make this exact same mistake this week and probably regret it by about 4 o'clock on Sunday. So there you go.
But Lamar Jackson's a lot different than Jacoby Brissett, though. That's true. That's a
fact. That's a fact. All right. You have another play for tonight, and it is a touchdown scoring prop. Who are you backing to score? I'm guessing I'm going to be shocked by
I'm all over this Thursday night game. I actually liked a lot of stuff in this one. When we were writing up some of our stuff over at BetSided, we got touchdown scorer props, prop bets. Ian, I know you wrote up parlay picks, so we got a bunch of stuff over there if you guys want to go check that stuff out over at BetSided. But I'm taking Juju Smith-Schuster to score tonight, score a touchdown. Let's put the return of Juju on the sign. The targets were the big thing. I mentioned it at the top of the show. He had 8 targets last week, was double of basically every other receiver other than McCole Hardman. And Hardman only reeled in 3 of his 6 targets. And he only finished with 16 yards. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster is the preferred option here, is the number 1 option in the passing game so far. At receiver, obviously Travis Kelce is going to be the number 1, probably no matter what. I just think the volume is going to be there. If this game really does end up getting close to this total of 54, like if we do see a high-scoring game where you're going to see multiple touchdowns on both sides. Patrick Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns last week. And I just, instead of taking Kelce at minus money on a touchdown scorer prop, like you got to think the Chargers, they're going to sell out to try and stop him. Derwin James, one of the best safeties in football. I would assume at times he's going to be matched up on Kelce. If J.C. Jackson doesn't play, I think Juju Smith-Schuster can have a really big game. He's plus 130. I saw him plus 145 this morning at FanDuel. I wonder if that has moved down. I ended up betting this at DraftKings. So, but I like Juju to score tonight. I think that the targets will be there. And if it ends up being a fast-paced game, I think you can hit on any of these receivers, but why not take the guy who saw the most targets in week 1?
Yes, I like that play quite a bit. Juju Smith-Schuster, I just want to look up his stats because remember how good he was and how highly touted he was his first couple seasons in the NFL. But this is his 6th season in the NFL. I did not know he was around that long. That makes me feel old. I feel like he feels like he's in like his just 3rd or 4th. But no, this is his 6th season. He got almost 1,500 yards back in 2018. Like, this guy has talent. He has skill. He probably suffered a little bit playing with Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career. And I mean, he is the guy who there's no real other top tier receivers on that team. Now, maybe not Juju's might not be top tier, but he's certainly the best amongst the rest of the group. So I like that quite a bit, especially at plus money. And my final best bet for this Sunday's NFL action here, Peter, good news. I'm going to back your Broncos. I'm going to lay the points with the Texans. I know the Broncos lost to the Seahawks in week 1, but I am personally not overreacting to that. They got 6.8 yards per play. They did dominate the Seahawks, let's be honest. I mean, they had 2 goal line fumbles and then a complete mismanagement of the clock and of the game by the head coach right at the end. They should have beat up on the Seahawks. They should have probably won by more than 1 score. They had a lot of bad bounces go against them, and that happens. That's sports. That's the NFL. But yeah, 6.8 yards per play. Russell Wilson showing that he can move the ball effectively in this offense. And the Texans stunk. Yes, they tied the Colts, but they had the ball bounce a lot of times in their favor, as opposed to the Broncos kind of bounced against them. Only 4.4 yards per play, 28th in the NFL in yards per play in week 1 was the Houston Texans. So I don't believe in the Texans. I believe in the Broncos. I think they can bounce back in a big way. I'm laying the points with the Denver. Both big favorites this week. I'm laying the points, both the Rams and the Broncos. So
I admire your courage here. I just very worried about Broncos looked extremely undisciplined in week 1. Over a dozen penalties, fumbling on the goal line. Just Nathaniel Hackett did not look like he was ready for his coaching debut. That makes me nervous. I don't know. We'll see. Full disclosure, I bet on the Texans. Part of it was a bit of an emo bet, but I just also am just not I'm not sold on Denver right now. That was a very, very winnable game on Monday night, and they choked it away 4 times. So I don't know.
I said it to you earlier today. You're the most optimistic Knicks fan I've ever met in my life, but now you're all of a sudden a very pessimistic Broncos fan. They lose 1 bad game, and all of a sudden it's over.
The Broncos' pessimism really just comes from 3 straight years of me telling myself that some random quarterback was going to be good enough for us to make the playoffs, and then just immediately the season being over 3 weeks in. So now it's just kind of second nature. I'm like, oh, yep, here we go again. So hopefully Russell Wilson is the guy that bucks the trend.
All right, let's recap our picks here with a little graphic for the people. I'm on like I said earlier, all my 3 picks are going to be for Sunday's games here. Love the Giants and Panthers over 42.5. My favorite total bet of the week. Like the Jets getting 6.5 points against the Browns and the Broncos laying 10 against the Texans. Peter, your best baseball bet of the night is the over 9 between the Padres and Diamondbacks. You have 2 plays for tonight. You will have your best bet later in the show, but you're also going to play the Chargers +4, and you're going to play Juju Smith-Schuster to find the end zone at any point in tonight's game, which brings us to the next segment here. We are going to stick to the NFL because that's all anyone cares about for the most part nowadays. Let's talk survivor picks and strategies. We talked about it at the top of the show. One of the most brutal opening weeks of the NFL season in terms of survivor pools. I saw and this was even before the Seahawks upset the Broncos on Monday night. I think, the famous survivor pool, the Circa Millions or whatever, on Sunday is 52% of the entries were eliminated. And last year it took until week 7 for that percentage of entries to be eliminated. So just a bloodbath for survivor pools. But if you're still in your survivor pool or you're in one that allows you to rebuy back in, we got picks, we got tips. So I'll ask you, Peter, do you have a general strategy for survivor pools? Because some people pick, good teams right at the start of the season with just the goal of surviving as long as possible, and they'll worry about picking bad teams later on in the year? Or are you a guy who kind of takes a look more at bad teams at the start and then saves your good teams for later in the year?
So I try. I mean, I lost week 1 taking what I thought was a good team against one of the worst teams in football. But that is my strategy. Normally, the first couple of weeks is just try and survive in advance. There's enough good teams in the NFL where you can waste a few at the beginning of the year. One of the strategies I normally do is I try and kind of fade some bad quarterbacks, or if there's quarterback injuries. Wish I took the Ravens against Joe Flacco and followed that strategy. But part of the reason why I didn't is I thought there would be chances Baltimore playing a last place schedule to play them later in the season versus the Colts who don't play a last place schedule. Rather just take them early. Obviously backfired, but I think one of the big strategies is really like you're in a survivor pool. It's literally called survivor. Like, don't try and get too cute with some of these, like, especially early, because you're going to eventually have to get cute no matter what you do. Like, you can say, oh, I'm going to save this team, I'm going to save this team, but at some point you're going to have to use them. So for me, it's like whatever matchup I think on the board, like I genuinely thought last week the Colts was the easiest game for a team to win. I think that's what you have to kind of go with. And, if you come down to a week where you're like, I might not use this team again, which I know you're going to talk about this with your survivor pick, like that's where that kind of can be like the trump card. But to me, you're in a survivor pool. Like if you have problems with like 3 teams in week 15, like it's a great problem to have because you made it to week 15, but you you have to get there first. So I think too early in the season getting cute with it. Obviously this past week, everybody kind of got screwed because a bunch of the big favorites lost, but I just normally try and go with the game that I think is the most sure thing on the board until like starts to kind of level out with a lot of people dropping out.
Yeah, I have a strategy. I don't know if it necessarily works. I'll be honest. This is only my second year doing survivor pools, but my strategy is early on in the season to kind of make the contrarian pick for the exact reason of what happened last week. Because weird things happen, especially early on in the season. So sometimes those obvious picks where a lot of guys are going to be on the same side. If you can make a contrarian pick that's still, a favorite that you're comfortable with them winning. If there's a crazy weekend like last week and a lot of big favorites lose, you're sitting pretty on the other side. So that's what I did last week. I took the Eagles. They almost blew it, but thankfully they held on for the win here. Now this week I'm not going to go contrarian. So let's actually just lead right into our survivor picks for this week. I'll start because it's not contrarian. It's probably going to be the most popular pick on the board this week, I would assume. It is the LA Rams over the Atlanta Falcons, but I have a specific reason why I'm taking the Rams this week. If you remember, I know we're going a week ago now, Matt Stafford's elbow doesn't exactly look great. There might be some issues. He has a sleeve on it. He's kind of trying to loosen it up. He had some bad throws on opening night against the Bills. That elbow issue is only going to get worse as the season goes on. So I think if you're going to take the Rams, you just have to do it now because I don't want to risk having to take them in week 8 when he's, borderline can barely throw the ball. And also the Rams do have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. This might be one of their easiest games on their schedule. So just take them now. They're 10-point favorites. As a Falcons fan, I can almost guarantee you they're going to beat up on my shitty team. Take them now. Let's just move on to week 3 and use the Rams now because, like I said, other good teams you might want to save. Matt Stafford's elbow is a concern of mine. I'll take him now while it's still attached to the rest of his arm.
Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. I think that's also, you make the great point. Like, when else are you going to be able to use the Rams? Like, their schedule is tough. So it's like, might as well use them here. Like, and it's almost like one of the, I think like getting it out of the way almost. Like, you got to use them at some point, so you might as well. My pick, if I was still in, was going to be the Bengals this week against the Cowboys. Just because it's Cooper Rush now. The Cowboys offense looked terrible even when Dak Prescott was in there. I don't see how Cooper Rush can win this football game. I'd be shocked if he did. Similar to the strategy probably should have taken the Jets last week with Flacco. But the other thing with the Bengals is they should have won in week 1. They turned the ball over 5 times and missed an extra point and a field goal, and they still lost in overtime on a game-winning field goal. So, like, they played about as bad of football as you possibly could play, and it still took the Steelers overtime and a missed kick in overtime to end up winning. So I think the Bengals are a pretty much as much of a lock as you can get this week. And so they're another team playing a first place schedule in a tough division. I don't know when the next time is that I'm going to be like feeling safe about using the Bengals. So this probably wouldn't have been a matchup at the beginning of the season where you're like, oh, I'm taking the Bengals against the Cowboys week 2. So I think it's a good spot to jump on them.
Yeah, and listen, I've spoken out about people making picks based on motivation factor. I think it's a really stupid reason to make a bet and make a pick. But I saw the report that Joe Burrow sat in his locker with his shoulder pads on for like an hour and didn't say anything or didn't do anything. I'm a sucker for that kind of story. Joe Burrow, as much as it probably doesn't mean anything, I think he's pissed about last week and he's going to come out strong. But that goes against everything I say because usually I hate motivation, but I'm a sucker for that story. Oh, the player was in the locker room. He would refuse to take his shoulder pads off. He wouldn't talk to anyone. I'm like, yes, let's go. So I like the Bengals pick as well. All right, let's talk game of the night. Let's wrap things up with game of the night here. Chargers Chiefs. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, this might be at least, I mean, we'll always see kind of what happens in the game. It might end up being boring, but just matchup-wise, I think this might be the best Thursday night football game of the entire season right here in week 2. 2 teams with a lot of hype this season, 2 teams who are battling for the AFC West crown. It is the Chiefs. It is the Chargers. The line opened at -2.5 for the Chiefs. It went up to 4.5 at some books, and now it kind of seems like it's hovering around 4.5, depending on where you look at it. So Peter, you mentioned that you already gave out 2 picks for this game, but you said that you have a best bet as well. So give us your best bet for tonight's showdown.
Yeah, Ian, you like a plus money prop? That interests
you? I love plus money props. That would interest me.
Yeah, so I got to shout out our guy Joe Summers first because he was the one that brought this to my attention, and I bet it the second he brought it to my attention. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdown passes. A little plus money prop here. Got a high total in this game, so obviously that can help us here if it ends up coming through. But Patrick Mahomes in 14 September games in his career, 12 times he's thrown 3 or more touchdown passes. He's also done it in 6 straight. So Patrick Mahomes got a little thing for starting the season fast. Obviously, last year, part of what helped him is the Chiefs' defense was terrible. But these 2 teams last year when they played, they were both high-scoring games. One went to overtime. So you got a chance where he's going to have to throw the ball. I also loved what Andy Reid did in week 1. When they got around the goal line, they had some different stuff. They ran a shovel pass to Clyde Edwards-Helaire on one play. Another time he had McCole Hardman out of the slot. They ran like a pick play to the flat for him for a touchdown. So I like that Andy Reid finally realized Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not a goal line back. They don't really have one on this team if you look at it. Jerick McKinnon, definitely more of a passing down back. Isaiah Pacheco, kind of a smaller guy. So Andy Reid's getting creative around the goal line. I think that benefits Patrick Mahomes. They're probably going to throw it more. And to be honest with you, the way Clyde Edwards-Helaire has ran the last couple of years, probably a higher success rate than running the ball with him on the goal line. So I think that helps Patrick Mahomes a lot, but just that trend, him just getting out to fast starts, I think this is kind of a season where Patrick Mahomes is telling the rest of the NFL to, I don't need Tyreek Hill. I'm pretty good myself. So don't love buying in completely to that, but there's a lot of stuff that's backing Mahomes here. So we get a high scoring game tonight. I'm pretty sure he's going to hit this one.
Love it. I will be tailing that one. I love that pick. Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns plus 110. My best bet for tonight, I'm going to keep it simple. It's Thursday night football. It's a fun matchup. I don't want to root for either team. I want to root for both teams' offenses. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to bet on the over 53.5 in this one. My main point is that I still don't trust this Chiefs defense. One of the worst defenses in the entire NFL last season. They did all right against the Cardinals in week 1, but I'm not buying into them just quite yet. And obviously the Chiefs offense had the best week 1 performance amongst all teams. Led the NFL in week 1 in yards per play, points per play. They were like 4th and 3rd down conversion rate. So if the Chiefs can mimic that week 1 performance here, we're going to be well on our way to cashing the over. So I'm going to sit back and root for points to this one. I would have leaned Chiefs, but then by the time I went to go bet on the game, the line had then moved over that magic number of 3 from where it was that 2.5 number. So I think the spread is set about right. Let's just root for some points. So Chargers Chiefs over 53.5, and the poll results are in, and the BetSided community poll is on the Chargers plus 4.5. I kind of thought the over might have been the popular pick today, but they're backing the Chargers in the points. Thoughts on that?
I like it. I'm back on the Chargers and the points too. I kind of wish I waited for it to get to 4.5. I bet it at 4, but I'm hoping for an over game too, and I might tell you on that just purely because that's what I want to root for tonight. Like I want a high scoring game. I think Bills Rams was like supposed to be a great game and ended up being kind of disappointing in week 1. So now I'm like, let's get a good Thursday night football game. Close game, high scoring. I like it. I like it a lot.
I'll never forget I think it was a Thursday night football game between the Chiefs and the Rams, like 4 years ago now, that had like 100 and some points scored or something like that. I want to see that tonight. I want to see just pure. That game was the best NFL game I've ever watched. It's like every drive is like an 80-yard touchdown. It was bananas.
It was nuts.
Yeah, I think the over in that game hit by like middle of the second quarter. So let's root for that again tonight. And that is all, my friends. That is the end of the show here. I am done for the week. I'll be back Sunday morning at 12 p.m. I guess Sunday afternoon, technically, an hour before kickoff for mine and Matt Verderam's NFL pregame show. We'll be giving out all of our best bets for those games. Tomorrow, Daily Betslip will still be going on. It'll be an hour earlier at 4 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Reed and Donovan Smoot bringing things home for the week. Peter, any final thoughts?
Let's root for points tonight. Let's have a fun Thursday night football tonight. We're back, man. This feels like peak NFL season right here.
I love it. It gets me jacked up. And then on Monday, Daily Betslip will be back. It looks like my guest will be Jeff Feinberg because we're going to talk some NFL Monday Night Football. And President's Cup is next week for you golf fans and bettors. It kind of snuck up on us, so that'll be fun as well. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe, please. Gambler or bless. Good luck with your bets tonight. Good luck with your bets this weekend. We'll talk to you later.